Access Minnesota, issues that matter to you. Access Minnesota brings you the newsmakers and the stories that shape our everyday lives, with analysis from University of Minnesota faculty experts. Now, here's Jim Dubois.
This past winter, the University of Minnesota was featured in a Wall Street Journal article that described, in the paper's words, a pattern of excessive administrative spending that has bloated the university's budget and dramatically increased tuition. Since 2001, the paper reported, non-teaching administrator jobs have increased at roughly twice the rate of teaching positions and total student enrollment. This month on Access Minnesota, we sit down with University of Minnesota President Eric Kaler to discuss his second academic year as president and how the university is addressing its critics. We'll also get a progress report on some of the goals the president laid out during his first term and hear about the U's foray into massive open online courses this summer. Eric Kaler is the president of the University of Minnesota. President Kaler, welcome back to Access Minnesota.
Very glad to be here with you today, Jim.
You just wrapped up your second year as president of the University of Minnesota, second academic year. Were there any lessons that you learned during that first year that helped inform decisions that you made this past year?
Well, it is an educational institution, so I like to think I'm learning all the time. And it was important to me to be able to take the relationships that we developed in the first year and further develop them in the second year, to be able to have important conversations with thought leaders in the state of Minnesota and important conversations with legislative leaders about the priorities of the institution. So it really was a building year in that sense. But again, continue to learn about the university. It's an amazing place. The depth and breadth of what we do is really astonishing. Also, in my second year, I had office hours for students for the first time, so I got to learn some more about what our wonderful students are doing.
How was that? Do you have a lot of takers during your office hours?
I do. We kind of have to manage them a little bit, and they are all over the map. Some are just happy to come meet the president. Some want me to fix a particular problem in their lives. Others want to talk to me about their political or social philosophy. So it's a very diverse group of students, but always good to talk with them.
How did the university fare during this past legislative session?
We did very well with the support of the governor and with legislative leaders, Senator Bonoff and Representative Pawlowski. We were able to get the great majority of our requests from the state. Our highest priority was receiving enough money to be able to freeze Minnesota resident undergraduate tuition for the biennium. And we did that, extremely important to stop the rise of tuition and the concomitant increase in student debt. And very significantly, we also received a infusion of funds to enable our research innovation engine, which we call MinDrive. That will allow us to invest in research in 4 areas that really are at the intersection of opportunity for Minnesota and expertise at the university. So being able to advance those research and innovation initiatives is a very big deal for us. So getting those 2 tranches of money, it's the first increase in spending from the state in the university in the past 6 years, and I hope represents a turnaround in our relationship and a path to a partnership with the state that will advance the university.
This is the first time in quite a while that the DFL controls all branches of the government, the governor's office, both houses of the legislature. Do you sense a different attitude, perhaps, among the DFL majority toward higher education than the Republicans had?
Well, they certainly were able to manifest a better budget for us. Of course, that involves, obviously, the increase in revenues that the DFL was able to put in place. But I've had productive conversations with members on both sides of the aisle. I think education is a pretty bipartisan concept. How it's going to be funded and how the state's going to be funded, obviously, the parties have different views there.
Is the tuition freeze a top priority for you?
Absolutely. It was my top priority, is my top priority. Being able to help our Minnesota resident undergraduates get the kind of high-quality education they can get at the University of Minnesota. It's important to me personally. I think it's very important for the state to be able to have that kind of educated workforce coming out of its great university.
The legislature may be a bit more generous toward the university this past session, but it seems there are more strings attached to some of the funding, performance measures, if you will. Do you think that's a good idea, or does that worry you that it could be the legislature beginning to intrude upon the autonomy of the university?
You know, Jim, there's always a balance there. The university is constitutionally autonomous and is able to govern itself. The Board of Regents is the governing body for the university. But on the other side, there's not a constitutional requirement that the state fund the university. And I think it's not unreasonable for lawmakers to expect the university to meet certain marks of progress in order to receive state funding. So I think we're in a balanced situation now. I'm comfortable with where we are. The metrics that we've agreed with the state are good metrics, improving graduation rates, running ourselves more efficiently and effectively, producing more invention disclosures. These are things that we want to do, and to the extent that there are strings or requirements from the state, that helps me in advancing those priorities for the institution. So as I said, I'm not uncomfortable with where we are, but it is a balance, and it's easy to see how those kind of constraints could go too far. Could limit our ability to do certain kinds of research, could limit our ability to admit the best and brightest students, et cetera. And those would be very unfortunate situations, and once that autonomy that line is crossed, you would think the regents would not cooperate with that, and that could lead to some uncomfortable situations.
When Access Minnesota returns, University of Minnesota President Eric Kaler responds to criticism from the Wall Street Journal and former Minnesota Governor Arne Carlson.
Access Minnesota will return after these messages.